We had a lot of red flags in our relationship, though. Not major red flags, but everybody has blind spots. Depends on how you look at it.
And what might be a red flag for one person may not necessarily be a red flag for another person, depending on their viewpoint on that thing.
If they were talking to you and they were saying, well, how do you deal with someone like him who's super
Tell me about it, child. Ooh, go ahead. Preach on, preach on. Yeah.
Hey, we talk about locum tenens a lot on this show. Renee and I, we've been doing it for well over 10 years now. So if you're curious about locum tenens and how it might fit into your career, check out locumstory.com. That's locumstory.com, and you'll see all the different reasons why physicians choose locums and how it works for them. Find out about jobs, taxes, travel, and to me, most importantly, pay. Visit locumstory.com to learn more. Folks, your exciting new medical career, it's just been hit with a serious illness or injury that stops you from earning a paycheck just when you need it most. Check out what Jamie Fleischner of Set for Life Insurance said back on episode 176 about having disability insurance early in your career.
The real reason to get it early on is really twofold. One is to protect your insurability. So if you are healthy and you can obtain the coverage, you also pre-approve yourself to be able to buy more in the future. So down the road, as your income does increase, you don't have to answer additional medical questions. All you have to do is show that your income is increased and you can buy more benefits at that time. No medical questions asked.
Protect your income, secure your future. Check out setforlifeinsurance.com. All right, what's good, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Docs Outside the Box. I am your host, Dr. Nee, joined by
Dr. Renee.
How y'all feeling? Doing good?
I'm okay, actually.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good on this end, but I hate to do it, but we have to do it.
What?
We got to do it. So I found out last week Friday. So by the time this recording comes out, this will be several weeks, but January 1st, we found out that one of our guests, Dr. Jamal Dixon, MD, he was episode 245. He passed away on December 1st.
Yeah.
Which shocked the heck out of me. Dr. Italo, who went to medical school with him, he let me know what's going on. Don't know the specifics, not saying that I deserve the specifics or need to know the specifics, but he passed away. But if you go back to that episode, man, my man was very perseverance, advocate. The man could fight.
Yeah.
And in essence was fighting stomach cancer, beat it, and did this while doing residency at Morehouse. He did his medical school training at Meharry and then went to Morehouse, went to Grady and did his internal medicine career. And then he was diagnosed during that time. And from that point, oftentimes I think when you're faced that early, that young with something that obviously can take your life just like that. Sometimes you got to figure out what you got to do. What are you going to do, to give back, right? And I think for him, he decided that he was going to train and teach other patients how to advocate for themselves. I'm not going to get too much into the specifics of the episode, but you all need to go back and listen to episode 245. It was a masterclass on how to advocate for yourself as a patient. Now, obviously, he was a medical doctor already. He had the medical knowledge, so it's very easy for him to navigate that. But he went ahead and started the Caregiver Sanctuary where he's teaching other people how to navigate for themselves, whether they're the patient or family. But yeah, this one hit me hard. He's only 37 years old, folks.
Wow.
Yeah, that one was really difficult. So rest in power, Dr. Dixon. Your message, your energy is definitely... it impacted me, affected me, and when I heard it, it definitely put me in a way. So, any thoughts on that? If you have any thoughts.
No, just when you called me, I was at work, and you told me that you had some bad news and that Jamal Dixon had passed away, and I immediately remembered where I was listening to his episode and how amazing I thought his episode was. Just talking about his pre-med journey, talking about the journey through, cancer, and then again, giving back and, starting the caregiver sanctuary, and just thinking, wow, like that's a lot for someone to kind of go through in a very short time in their lives. And I was, really just saddened, obviously, by his passing, but also I was very happy that he was able to live what at least looked like a full and meaningful life, right?
Yeah, he lived. It sounds like he lived a couple of lifetimes.
Yeah,
during that time. Yeah. He was only 37.
Right.
In the midst
and
of residency.
Not many people get to say that at that age. No.
But taken way too early.
Way too early. So yeah. So rest
in power.
Rest now.
Yeah. Rest in power. Rest in peace. However you guys want to look at it, and also, thoughts and prayers with the Meharry family, the Morehouse family, as well as
especially his
family directly.
Mm-hmm.
So, listen, let's do a real quick moment of silence, and then we'll go from there. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a real quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about our anniversary, the lessons we've learned during those 10 years, as well as some red flags in relationships. Be right back. All right, y'all. This is Dr. Nee. I've been doing locum tenens trauma surgery for well over 10 years, and I haven't looked back since. Best combination of lifestyle and income that I could ask for. Now, for you, your needs, your wants, that's going to be different than mine. Maybe you want more control over when you work or even how much you work. Or, look, you're just trying to make more money to pay off those damn student loans. Now, the other thing is, pay attention. The average locums doc gets paid at least 33% more than your average employed doc. Got your attention now? So look, I get it. Sometimes the hardest part is, where do I start? You start your research at locumstory.com. Once again, that's locumstory.com. It's an unbiased educational resource about locum tenens. There, you're going to find stories about the different reasons why doctors choose locums and how it works for them. Locumstory.com has tools that let you explore locums pay, demand for your specialty, and even compare different locum tenens agencies. So look, stop sitting on the fence or just thinking about it. Start doing. Do your own research at locumstory.com. Once again, that's locumstory.com. It's easy. All right, we are back. All right, y'all, let's get into this. So actually, this episode is really about our anniversary, what has changed during these last 10 years of our marriage, relationship, whichever way you want to describe it. And even more importantly, how being in a relationship has kind of changed the trajectory of our careers, our lives individually, our children's lives, us as business owners, and then also at the same time, what you can glean from this. And then also we're going to talk a little bit about some red flags. So prepare to be gaslit. I'm just letting y'all know.
Trigger warning.
Prepare to be gaslit. Some of this is in comedy, but a lot of this is in truth. But the best type of comedy is said in truth, right? Or said in jest, right? So let's jump into the show. So Thanksgiving was not only a great celebration in a Darko household, but it was also me and Renee's 10-year anniversary, right?
Yes, it was.
So I know that you specifically on your 10-year anniversary did not want to be hosting Thanksgiving, but you did it because, it's important for our family.
It's family,
right?
yeah.
It's family. You would rather be doing something, anniversary and so forth, and right?
You're giving yourself a lot of credit here.
Well, I'm just saying. 10 years is a big year,
Yes.
right? 10 years is a big milestone. And that's one of those, you go to a different country, or you do something real nice. You rededicate your vows, or, whatever it is, or you bust out a divorce on someone. Right? 10 years, I'm out. Blah, blah, blah.
That's not a celebration. Well, it could be a celebration.
It could be for some people. Some people listening, trust me. Right. But
yes,
for us, I think one of the things that I wanted to talk about with this episode is like there's a lot has happened over this last 10 years. Mm-hmm. A lot. If you asked me prior to getting married to you, and even before we like really got serious, if my life would look like this marriage-wise, I would say hell no. Right? I'm just going to preface it by saying that, y'all.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Uh-oh.
Well, it's a lot.
You paused.
It's not that it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. What I'm saying is I said is.
So, folks, Nee has been saying is for like 2 months.
Yeah,
and I don't know how to get him to stop.
I'm stuck in this matrix loop where I gotta break it.
The thing is
Alfred, every time I say is just make sure you note that on the episode, all right? So that I could go back and see how painful that is. Even though I didn't say that, even though I go back and I listen to these episodes again, listening to your mistakes over and over again can be rather painful and can make sure that you don't mess it up. Let's get back to the episode.
Okay.
You ready?
Okay.
You focus?
Yes.
If you had asked me before we got married what kind of relationship I would want, or I knew that if I was going to get married to you, 2-doc household, kind of just working. I'm working hard, you're working hard, having kids. Mm-hmm. I never thought about what it would be like to be married to another doctor, having kids. Who specifically is going to take care of the kids?
Logistics.
Like, I never thought about the logistics of that.
Yeah, logistics.
Nanny was kind of like, maybe, I don't know how this is going to work. Maybe my parents, I don't know. These are the thoughts that I had before. I just never really thought about marriage in that. Mm-hmm. I never thought about it that granular. If you ask me about my career, I can tell you, I'm like, yeah, I want to practice for this many years. I want to do this with my career. I want to work here. These are the type of operations I want to do. Mm-hmm. This is the goals specific that I wanted to reach. But marriage is just like, yeah, of course I want to be married. Who doesn't want to be married, right?
Yeah.
And I want to be married to somebody who is professional and they going to work, right? Because I want to make money, right? I never thought about that. And I never thought that now you contrast it with how my life is now. It's just different. It's much better, but it's different.
It better be better. You
see what I'm saying? I think the best way to describe it is my thoughts on marriage before was very black and white, right? Like there really wasn't much color to it. Whereas now my life has color to it. There's nuance, right?
So would you
much like your headscarf?
Wrap.
Okay. So I stand corrected.
So, question: would you say that marriage was more of a checkbox? Like,
yes,
it's just something that that you were going to do, but you didn't really think about how it was going to be executed.
Absolutely, yeah. Because I looked at marriage like that. I told you already. Like guys, if you don't know, like my mom drilled into me not to let any relationship affect my educational ascent, so to speak. No relationship. And that's kind of how I moved, right? Like we were in a relationship, but it was really clear. And I think that wasn't the right way to do things, but it was very clear that my career came first. Education came first. And
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, especially you weren't married.
And everything came second to that. Like in my mind, I just was not willing to fully commit, be married, and get engaged until I got that degree that says fellowship on it. That was not happening because I think her fear and what she drilled into me is that once you start being married with someone, you have to take sacrifices.
So she understood the execution. You didn't.
Exactly.
If she had only told you about the execution, maybe you could have made a plan.
Well, but she didn't give me the specifics. And maybe that's the reason why I was so focused, right? Because I was like, cold-hearted. I'm an assassin about this.
Okay.
Right? But I think there are things that you have to consider when you're dating or marrying or being in a long-term relationship with another professional, particularly someone who's in a like high earning professional.
Right.
Time constraints, the stress of the job, you know, come home.
The money you're going to make.
The money you're going to make, that could be a stressor.
Yes.
You guys may be on different ends of the spectrum with money. That's a big deal. And I just want people to really understand that as much as you focus a lot on your careers and you see a certain way in which your career is going to go, that relationship can either be a hindrance or it can really augment, it can really make that career, your choices, your life afterwards so much better.
The person that you tie yourself to potentially could be the person who either lifts you up or ruins you.
Is your demise, is the reason why you're working in your 70s.
The person could lift you up or they can literally ruin you, right? Like, so yeah, you have to be very careful about who you hitch your, which horse you hitch your wagon to.
So we had a lot of red flags in our relationship, though. Not major red flags, but I think we had red flags in our relationship. But I think most relationships have some form of red flags in their relationship.
Everybody has that, yeah.
Like things that you just don't see, right? Everybody has blind spots, right? Some people will say these are red flags. Other people say, well, that's a blind spot in a relationship.
Right.
Depends on how you look at it.
Right. And what might be a red flag for one person may not necessarily be a red flag for another person, depending on their viewpoint on that thing.
I think people from the outside looking in, if they were talking to you, and they were saying, well, how do you deal with someone like him who's super
Tell me about it, child. Ooh, go ahead. Preach on, preach on. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just talking about the last 2 years of our marriage. Is there something you want to say, Alfred?
You were not talking about the last 2 years. Go ahead.
But I do think that someone looking at a relationship could say, yo, there's a red flag right there. Like he's super hyper focused on on his career. Are you sure that he's willing to commit? Are you sure that he's showing the signs of possibly being a good husband? Right. I'll be really honest with you, because me, like I said, I think for me, like I was so used to doing everything by myself. Every success, failure.
Yeah, you really were.
That was on my own, right? And
I don't need you to help me with that.
I was very self-sufficient and very much like relationship is there. What I do is here. Don't cross here. Very much. So remember, there were times where you would give me advice on how to study or just other things. I'm like, stay over there. Like you can make your little recommendations on what movies we go to or what DVD we gonna book, what DVD bootleg we gonna watch, or
watch a lot of DVD.
What we gonna do, but like all this here, like all this, like you good, you stay over there. But
you feel like that, but
I mean, but we all have our nuances, right?
You got red flags now.
I do think that, but I do think that the issue is when the issue between us initially was, I think that metaphorically you kind of held up a mirror to me, so to speak, and I got to see certain like your personality with certain challenges or certain questions that you may ask or certain things that you may do. It was almost like a mirror to me, and it forced me to see certain blind spots that I may have. It forced me to kind of bend in certain ways that I wasn't used to bending because I'm so used to doing things a certain way. Right. And I think initially it was like this, like tectonic plates, like beef.
We had a lot of beef.
You know what I'm saying? Beef.
Lots of beef.
Like two hard-headed people.
Oxtails up in here.
2 rams.
2 rams.
Right? So I think that's one thing that's really interesting was that initial resistance to kind of thinking about things from a different perspective. But I do have to admit, once we got married, like a lot of the things that have changed, particularly in my life, in my vision, that I think is extremely positive is because I've incorporated more of the ideas that you brought on. But it's true, right? Like the reason why we got out of debt in 3 years as opposed to 15 years was because of you.
Yes.
You're the one who came up with the notion of, we could do 3 to 5 years, right? Because at first we were going to do 15 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, we're stuck. Like, everybody who knows me knows that when I make a plan, that is it. Don't come to me with nothing else.
That's your entire family.
Hey, we're systematic with it.
That's your entire family.
That's
this is the plan.
That's why we successful.
This is the plan. Then you go, oh, look, I found a better plan. You're like, nope, I want the bad plan. I don't want the good plan.
Well, it's not a bad plan. But anyway, so she came up with the idea to go to 3 years. At first, I was a little resistant, but then it made sense. I was like, let's go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Some of the other things, what's the other things? What's some of the other ideas that I pushed back on initially? Or
what didn't you push back on?
Part-time.
Oh, yeah.
You working part-time initially for me was a big deal. I was like, what are you talking about?
We didn't have a whole fight about that.
But I was like,
kind of like,
man, you could work.
Yeah.
Go work and make that full-time money. And you were like, nah, we haven't really been living together in a long time.
Yeah, we had a long-distance relationship, on and off long-distance relationship at that, for 7 years at one point, because we were together in Kansas City for about 3 years, 3.5 years. And then we went to residency, fellowship, whatever. So that added on, a few more years. Then we reunited in Atlanta for 1 year. Then I moved out to Idaho. You went to Miami.
It's off and on,
so it was off and on for like 7 years, right? Like, no, but the reason that I went
2.5 years, like we get
no,
it.
but the reason that I'm going through that is so that people understand, like, this wasn't a continuous relationship.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this wasn't a continuous relationship. Like, oh, you guys just living together. You dated for 10 years and then you guys decided to get married. That's not how this happened.
The story of Renee, like, getting me for my paper when we went to dinner and making sure I buy like the most expensive wine. That was when we were off, actually. So we were
trying to get back for your paper? You no paper.
Yeah, but you wanted me to pay for that expensive ass wine.
Babe, it was like one glass of wine.
That was like $25, $30.
Get out of here. It was not no $25, $35 bucks, babe. No, it wasn't. Get out of here. Well, you always exaggerate, especially for the podcast. Always exaggerate.
Anyway, the point of this is, listen, over the past 10 years, what have you learned?
Well, I think I've learned that marriage is truly a partnership, right? And that having competing moments, having moments.
Queen of cliche over here.
What? Anyway, having competing moments or moments where we're competing against each other are completely and utterly unhealthy and unhelpful.
If you're competing with your partner, that's a
it's bad, right? Yeah. And so I think over the last 10 years, I kind of look at you, more like, you said like I show you a mirror. But I look at you as kind of almost like a reflection of me, right? A reflection of me. The things that I do or say to you are things that I should not do and say to myself if they are negative, right? So I should only do and say positive things to you, right?
Okay.
So I kind of look at it like that. There was one time, so I'll tell you this. There's one time I went home to New York. And my brother and I were sitting at the table and we started arguing about something. And my brother, he's like, you always coming in here, you talking about that, whatever. And then he goes, that's it. I'm not talking to you anymore. Don't talk to me anymore. And I was like, and if you know my brother, the one thing you know about my brother is he absolutely loves his family. You can have one drop of Volney blood in you. All of a sudden, he's all up in your grill. He wants you to come over to the house. He wants to whatever. So when he was like, oh, you don't have to talk to me anymore. Don't talk to me ever again. I just looked at him and started laughing. We're both angry at each other, but I looked at him. I was like, are you crazy? I was like, you, the same mother and father as me, you think I'm not going to talk to you? You think you're not going to talk to me? Like, that's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. And so that exchange between me and my brother really started making me think about when I get into conflicts with you and why do I feel very comfortable like putting the kibosh on the negative feelings and upset, on the argument, and just being like, you ain't going nowhere. Like, you my brother, right? To my brother. No, to my brother.
Okay.
But what does that mean? Can I reproduce that sentiment with my husband, right? That, listen, I'm pissed off at you right now, but I ain't going nowhere and you ain't going nowhere. Like, just stop playing. Like, we are family, and that's just the way that it is. And so just in the same way that I have to have that unconditional.
I just bought a car cash today. $50,000 cash.
Anyway, just in the way that I have to have that unconditional, relationship with my brother, I think there was an epiphany for me that was like, I have to have this unconditional relationship if I'm going to, or at least approach to this relationship, if my relationship.
You think is there such thing as an unconditional love when you're in a relationship with someone, not family wise? Family wise is always an unconditional relationship because you share.
Not always.
I disagree with that. I think it's not always, but I'm sorry.
I disagree with that, but I think it's not always.
I think
you did it again.
When you are blood related to someone, family, kids, it's a lot easier to have that unconditional love. Can you have an unconditional love with someone who you are not related to?
But that's the point, right? That's the point of
Answer the question.
That's the point of me telling this story, is that I had to recognize that I know, because I deliberately involved myself in this union with you, that I could also deliberately separate myself from this union with you. That's not the case with my brother. Like, I didn't have a choice. He's my brother. Like, there's nothing I could do. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I can't approach my relationship with you in such a way that I say, okay, now that I have put myself into this marriage, that as long as it's safe and healthy, right? As long as it's safe and healthy, that there should be no reason for me to be like, on a whim, like, oh, that's it, I'm just going to end this marriage.
That's because you signed a prenup. That's why.
Nobody signed no prenup. What did you have?
You got another 10 years to go.
You had a Jetta that just... Anyway, you had a Jetta with the shocks of a tricycle.
1999 Volkswagen
and
Jetta.
And a mirror was hanging off.
What? Power windows?
Anyway, talk about the red flags, please.
6 CD changer?
Because that's a red flag.
6 CD changer? Sunroof?
If he got a car with the shocks of a tricycle, you might want to run.
Yo, that German engineering, come on.
Get out of here, Ning.
Come on.
Anyway.
No matter where you are in your career, you've seen patients your age or younger get seriously injured, have a long-term illness, or even have a mental health issue that affects their ability to work. Now, what if that was you? No, for real, what if that was you? Without disability insurance, how are you going to replace your paycheck? In episode 176, Jamie Fleischner of Set for Life Insurance explains why the best time to buy disability insurance is during your residency.
Most physicians acquire their disability policies during residency, and there's several reasons. First of all, when you're younger, you're able to obtain the insurance because they ask you a whole host of medical history. And so you usually don't get healthier over time. Usually you get less healthy over time. So when you're healthy, it's easier to acquire the coverage. Number two, it's also less expensive because it's based on your age and your health. You're not getting younger or healthier over time. So you're at the ideal time. The earlier you get it and the younger you are, the less expensive it's going to be.
So whether you're a resident or you're an attending, it's never too late to protect your income. Renee and I, we use Set for Life Insurance to find a disability policy that fit our needs and budget. So what are you waiting for? Check out setforlifeinsurance.com. Once again, that's setforlifeinsurance.com. Well, anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about some red flags, y'all, because we talk about our relationship enough. But obviously our relationship really, I'll be really honest with you. Like, I think the big flex with our relationship, or at least with the career, is that we don't compete. Mm-hmm. And we are creating this non-traditional lifestyle, and it truly involves like what you want to accomplish and how I can help you in accomplishing that. And the same thing, right? What I can accomplish and how you're going to help in that. Like, we're always thinking about how we can help each other and make it work. Is it perfect? Hell no, it ain't perfect.
Damn.
But it works, right? It works for us, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. But Listen, if you hear this red flag or these red flags, you may want to put, there's gonna be some people pissed off at us. So let's just jump right into it. These are some red flags in your relationship. If you listen to this podcast right now and you hear these red flags, and you need to question. All right, so let's jump right into it.
Wait. Let's get the trigger warning. Some of y'all just going, y'all gonna be mad at us like, that didn't happen with me because my man and this, that, and the other, and 25 years later we still together.
But listen, we speaking from the truth, right? Like this is come on, right? Like this is the truth. Here's one red flag. If you don't, so for example, for people who want to create kids together,
like
you're okay with creating kids with someone, but you don't want to merge your finances, right? So you don't want to have a joint account with your spouse, but you want to have.
I'm waving
kids with
a red
them.
flag.
I think that's a red flag.
Yeah.
Now, when that occurs, because it's rarely both of them want to not merge their finances. Usually it's one person who's like, my previous experiences here, I'm accustomed to this, I'm accustomed to that, or this is how mom raised me or my dad raised me. Yeah. I need a separate bank account, or I need to have all of my finances separate, or my loans are my loans, your loans are your loans, but we want to have kids. Like that to me is a big red flag. I don't care what anybody says. Come from me in the streets. And I'm telling the truth. If you're listening right now and you like this, that's a big red flag before you get into a relationship.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's one thing not to combine your finances, but
it's like, you're going to put in half on preschool? Like, how does that work?
It's one thing not to want to combine your finances, but definitely want to combine your DNA. Like, that is really something that I don't understand. And I know a lot of people going to come for us like,
forget it. They're not going to come for it because they know they're speaking the truth.
Well, no, because there are people who don't agree with that. But for me, I'm like, listen.
And this is not like a religious talk whatsoever, because we don't even, just so y'all know, like this is, some people are like, oh, well, the book says you take a rib off of whoever and then this. Look, hey, listen. We talking common sense stuff here, right?
So I definitely think that you are ridiculous. I definitely think that if you can't trust the person that you're with to basically take care of the finances in a very responsible way, that's probably not a person that you want to marry. It's probably not a person that you want to marry. Now, you might want to date that person long term, but that's not a person you want to marry.
Wait, and so you're looking at it from the woman's perspective, or excuse me, you're looking at it from the spouse or the person's perspective who doesn't want to merge their finances with someone. But what if that person was raised, the person who doesn't want to merge, or what if they were raised to not want to? Do you see what I'm saying?
Right, but that's usually why.
So what I'm saying is there's nothing that the other partner can do.
Correct.
There's nothing that the other partner can do to convince that person to say, hey, we should put our money together.
Correct.
So who's a red flag?
No. It's not who's the red flag. It's what's the red flag. The situation is a red flag, right?
Okay.
That you have one person who's like, absolutely not, don't want to put our stuff together. The other person might also not want to put their stuff together. I think that situation is, personally, I think it's a red flag.
Okay, so that's a red flag for the relationship. So what I'm talking about, let's say, for example, you were entering into a relationship and you're like, Nee, I love you. I want to marry you. I'll take your last name. We'll have kids. But the one thing we can't do is we can't have like joint accounts or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, but, and you look at all my finances, everything is great. Everything is everything is great. $100,000, right?
And usually that's not what's happening, that they're sharing looking at finances, but whatever.
But let's say it was, right?
Okay.
Based off of my habits, you see that there's nothing that would make you be like, I may not want to put my finances together with him because you don't see any of that.
Right.
So is it a red flag for our relationship or a red flag for you?
It's a red flag for the relationship because I'm part of the relationship. And now you have a decision to make, right? You have a decision to make as to whether or not this is the type of relationship.
So you're saying the burden is on me?
No, the burden
is
like,
hey,
the burden is on both people, because if you say to me, well, no, I want to combine, right? Then it's like, okay, well, we have a fundamental dilemma in this relationship that we don't see money in the exact same way, or we don't have the same trustworthiness of each other around finances, right? I don't want to put my money together with you because what if you try something and it's like, but are you going into a marriage like, well, because if you're already going in as what if, it's probably not a relationship that you want to go
someone's pull out
into.
an ace of spades right now and be like, well, what about, domestic abuse and all that stuff?
Absolutely.
How do you predict that part? And it's
you predict that part because if you got domestic abuse, typically it's happening well before you get married.
Correct.
Right? Like typically it's happening
but
well
people
before
can change though. Yeah, I mean, you can have no.
People can change.
Basically, you're saying there's crumbs of red flags before you
exactly,
get to that point.
right? Somebody who is going to abuse you, right? Even if they haven't hit you yet, which usually signs of domestic abuse isn't, I'm going to hit you first. It's usually something to the effect of degrading you, verbally abusing you.
Yeah.
The verbal abuse usually comes first. Right. So that's the red flag in that relationship. So that question isn't, well, do I want to put my finances together with this person? It's, do I want to be with this person? Because this person's dangerous. So before we even think about putting finances together, you got to think about whether or not you're even going to be safe with this person.
Okay. So I do think that. Okay, so basically, I think we kind of deaded that conversation already.
Right.
Like, if you don't want to merge your finances with someone, that's a red flag, basically.
I just think that it's very curious that people are very, very protective of their money more so than they are protective of the fact that they are willing to reproduce with someone, because there are so many. So, for example,
I would think more people are more.
What?
I think people are just as protective of their finances as they are of like their animals, even more so than their kids.
Probably.
It's like, one thing you can't have my dog. You
can't have my money, and my car. Car's number 3. But we can have kids together.
We're gonna get lit up, yeah.
We can have kids together. No, but like I really find that very curious, because I'm just like, but the signs were there. And I know, listen, I'm an OBGYN, so I know things happen. I know that, right? Like you have an encounter. That's not what, the encounter was for necessarily. You may have even used protection. The protection failed. I get that. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about specifically and deliberately having children with people, but yet being more protective of that person not being a part of your financial life, even though they're part of your family now because you made children with them. That's red flag.
Red flag number 2 is you take him out on his birthday, or you take him out for his birthday, and he won't let you pay for anything.
Even on his birthday.
Even on his birthday. And people may be asking, like, Nee, why is that a red flag? That's a red flag because you got a controlling what. If he can't even just relax enough to let you pay on his birthday, then the question is why does he want to pay? Did I say that? Then the question is
that
why is he so controlling with his money? Why does he or she have to pay for everything all the time? How will that translate into other aspects of life? Mm-hmm. Is this person always have to be the person who's in charge of the major purchases in the family? Does this person have to be in charge of, I'll just leave it at that. Does the person have to be in charge of everything, basically? Right. Is he going to be going through scouring your statements? Like, why you spend money on X, Y, and Z? Why'd you spend money at, Golden Crust? Why'd you get them beef?
Because he want a beef patty, man.
Why are you getting them beef patties, Don't you know? But I think that's a red flag that a lot of people don't pay attention to.
Yeah.
But it's real subtle.
It's very subtle. That's what I was going to say.
It's like, dude can't even take a day off on his birthday and let you pay.
So what's really funny is that by itself, like you saying that by itself, people are going to be like, what you mean? That's so stupid. But here's what happens. What happens is, after you get out of a relationship with that mug because he was so controlling, one of the first things you going to say is, man, even on his birthday, he wouldn't let me do X, Y, and Z. You're going to notice it then.
I think people would, but see, here's the thing though. I think the way how people would miss it is people who are dating that person would be like, oh, that's like, this person is a take charge type person. He's very assertive,
chivalrous.
You know, I just know that he's gonna take care of me.
Yes.
And it's like, yo, it's 2023. Like, we're not trying to take care of like
we're not trying to take care of people in 2023.
You need to be able to pay for your own stuff. But like, for example, if you're entering into a relationship with someone,
Cheesecake Factory.
Man, that.
Look at me. I cannot go in the Cheesecake Factory.
There's nothing wrong.
I will die.
So, respectfully, I'm gonna just drop you off at home.
Oh, no, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Want to
Lucky
call
he
it a
didn't tell you
night?
to walk your ass home.
I mean,
That is another episode. Them Cheesecake Factory women. First of all, why are you filming this? Right? Like your
Well,
disapproval.
there's a question of whether or not it was fake, but
There's another one, right?
is there?
There's another one that's out there.
Oh, Lord.
And the second one, the girl who's, I'm like, you got the nerve to be asking why we going to the cheesecake? I'm like, that's an upgrade for you, lady. The way how she looks.
Me.
Yo, I'm just game recognized game. Yo, yo, she look like she need to go to Golden Crust. All right?
Golden Crust.
Or
What's wrong
McDonald's.
with Golden Crust?
Anyway, but the point is this. The point is this. The point is this. Is that is a really subtle sign, I think, of like, well, this person's going to take care of the situation for me. Right? Like you give up control. This person is always going to take care of everything. I can make plans and they are just going to financially. So it's like, well, what you want? You want a daddy or you want a husband? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
that's one thing that I always am like.
Well, you know.
I mean, even when I was dating, like I stayed away from girls who had the daddy complex. Like that is just weird.
Yeah. So it's really funny because I was watching something where this young lady was in a relationship with a man, and I guess the relationship didn't work out. And part of what she articulated was that she wanted someone who was going to take care of her. Mm-hmm. And she literally said someone who was like a father figure to her. That's what she was looking for in a romantic relationship with someone. And
that just sounds off to me, man.
Well, to me it sounds off.
Yeah.
That's her reality, but it sounds off to me.
We're judging, but it's the truth.
So, and I just found it actually amazing that she actually articulated that. I think a lot of women who think in that way, oh no, I need somebody who's going to take care of me. He got to take care of me. Don't actually articulate that they are looking for a father figure, right? Because
then also it's also vice versa then, right?
What?
For men who want a woman who doesn't have to work, doesn't have to do anything, but just be at home.
Right.
You know, I'm talking about specifically not like things change because you have kids. Right? That's
right. No, not that. I'm talking about
like
the relationship
you're with
between
a woman,
the two people.
You're dating someone who has a job, who's working, who's very happy in their career, and there are guys who are like, yeah, if I marry a woman, she's not going to have to work.
Right, and I have to take care of her.
Why don't she have to work?
Right. I don't have to take. I want to take care of her. I want to take care of her, kind of thing. That to me, and we've talked about this before offline, but that to me is a father-daughter relationship. That's a man who's looking for a daughter and a woman who is looking for a father. And for me, I'm just kind of like, that's a really weird dynamic for me in a relationship. For me anyway. I mean, for other people, it may work for y'all. But my problem with that relationship is that if you're her father, and I have a father, so I know your father tells you what to do and what you can't do. And that's the way that relationship goes. You can do this, you cannot do that. And so if he's that controlling, he's going to tell you what you can and cannot do. He's going to tell you where you can and cannot go. He's going to tell you who you can and cannot be friends with.
You think guys look for a mommy in a relationship?
Yes, I do think that guys look for a mommy in a relationship as well. Absolutely. That's another
weird.
red flag.
That's weird.
Yes, I do think that there are some men who do look for a mother in a relationship. Absolutely.
Once again, guys, if you're hearing this, don't be mad. Just look internally.
Just sit back and enjoy it.
Look internally and decide what y'all going to do.
Just sit back and laugh.
The third red flag is he asks you to marry him and you don't know anything or much about his family. That's a big red flag.
That's a red flag right there. I don't know your people.
Because, there's a lot of people who go away from medical school. And, when you go away from medical school, you're going to be in another state, maybe several states away. You develop relationships with people. Mm-hmm. You may even start to live with someone. Mm-hmm. And you realize this person rarely goes home. Mm-hmm. Or if they go home,
they're not taking you.
They're not taking you. And then you're like, I love this person. This person is great.
With you?
You want to engage with this person. And you possibly may want to marry this person after several years or however long it does now in 2023.
Right. 6 months.
But the thing that I always have a question of is like, how do you know what you're actually marrying into? Like when you marry someone, you're not just marrying that person. You're marrying into that family. You're taking on that genetics. Like all of these different things on a deeper scale is more than just an I do. Are you prepared for all the consequences when you haven't even seen how this person interacts with their family? Yeah. Now, obviously, there's like extenuating circumstances, right? But I'm talking about in general, a person who has
right. We're not talking about somebody who live halfway across the world,
or maybe even someone who someone who someone who may have a difficult upbringing and just don't have a relationship with their family. Right. Like
that's what I'm extenuating.
Right, that's like an extenuating circumstance. But I'm talking about like a regular relationship, has brothers, has sisters, has a mom
like he
and dad.
in school in New Jersey, but his family live in New York.
Right.
And you ain't never met them.
That's weird, right?
That's weird.
Or he doesn't talk about them.
Right.
Right, like an Aaron Rodgers type of situation, right? You don't know about that, but we can get into that later on. But basically, that's what I'm talking about. Like you just never see them interact with their family. They don't talk much about their family. And you gonna spend the rest of your life with this person. Yeah. That's a red flag. You gotta be careful about that.
That's a red flag. So for you and me, we actually knew each other's families pretty early on.
I didn't think of, and when we were dating, I really didn't think of much about this for obvious reasons. But like you brought this up, and I was like, that actually makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, you and I got to know our families actually very early on. I think the first encounter for us was when my brother dropped me off at school.
Yeah.
And that's the first time we met in person, actually. So the first person you met in my family was my brother.
Yes.
And then the second person you met was my mother.
Yes.
Because she came like the next day or 2 days later. And then I met your mother.
Yes.
Because she came like maybe a month later for your birthday. And then we just kept interacting with each other's families. And folks,
this is early on.
We weren't even dating at this time.
In med school. This is like the first, everything that you're saying in terms of who we met on my side or her side, this is like the first month or 2 months or so.
Yeah, of medical school. And so...
but you got to see how I interact with my mom.
Right.
You got to see how I love my mom, how I love my sisters, my dad, all of those different things.
So I even lived with your family.
At one point, yes.
At one point, yeah.
And then I got to see how you interact with your family also. And you start to see, okay, like she comes from good stock, right? And it has nothing to do with how they work, how much money they make, or anything like that. It's like you see them and how they interact with each other. Is it a loving type of environment?
Right.
Do they encourage each other? Is it
toxic?
Is it toxic? Right.
Right.
Like that, I did not see.
Yeah. Yep. Same here.
Yeah.
Same here. And I just felt like, especially
and it wasn't perfect, but it was just.
Right.
It's a normal family.
Right. It's a normal family. It's like, families can have, dissent and things like that. But how, is it toxic? That's the question. And so I didn't see any of that in your family. You didn't see any of that in my family. And I think that that's really important when you're bringing two families together, or when two people are coming together, you're bringing two families together. It's not just the two people. So I think if you don't know this person's family, or you met one person and that's it.
What if you met everybody, but it's very toxic, but your man or your woman, they're not toxic? What are your thoughts on that?
You got a decision to make. You have a decision to make because the question of toxic.
Because can one person overcome their toxic family toxicity?
There's always, there's an outlier, right? There's the, I forget what they call it. There's the Marilyn Munster. Right? Everybody got Marilyn Munster in their family. Right?
What was that? I can't remember. What was that?
Marilyn Munster was the only normal looking Munster in the Munsters.
Oh, one of them black and white shows. I watched Leave It to Beaver.
Leave It to Beaver. That's the only black and white show you watched.
Yeah.
No, But yeah, so yes, can that person be the outlier? Absolutely, that person can. But that's not the only question, because you're not just marrying that person, you're marrying the family. So while your husband or your wife, who might come from a toxic relationship, is themselves not toxic, the question is, what interactions are you going to have with the family? Because you're going to have you're going to have to go for dinner. You might have children, and that's going to cause something, right? Children especially, I think, bring out toxicity in people because people feel like they want to impose their own family values and, you know, things like that, their own principles. Oh, you should do this with the child. No, don't do that. We don't do that, you know, kind of thing. And it's like,
that could be a blind spot, I think. I don't know if it's a red flag, more like a blind spot. Well, I don't know. Anyway, we'll leave it as a blind spot. We'll leave it as a red flag, actually. Mm-hmm. That's a red flag.
Yeah.
Well, how about this? We got some honorable mentions. How about this, show? Alfred.
Red flag, honorable mention.
Put this as honorable mention. Give us some music in the background. These are red flags that, you know, you could kind of be like, oh, man, these aren't that bad, but they red flags. When she introduces you to everyone and she tells everyone what your profession is.
Ooh.
That's a red flag.
This is my husband, Dr. Needs Arco.
All right, Fran Dressler. Fran Dressler over here. Hey.
Oh, Bob, you can't park there. It's illegal.
Fran, I'm a doctor. I can park anywhere.
Give it up.
Nanny.
If he marries you because you're pregnant.
Ooh.
Only because you're pregnant.
Only because.
Yeah.
Not just while you're pregnant. Only because.
I feel like that should have been in the top 3 red flags. Would you convince me otherwise?
I convinced you otherwise. Yeah. Get out of here. Yeah.
This is something that I think should have been in the top 3 also.
What? If that's the case, then do the whole episode over, Nee. There's a red flag when somebody tell you that it should have been in the top 3, but they ain't put it in there.
When you are planning the wedding, this is from a guy's perspective. When you're planning the wedding with your future wife.
And you want kids.
And your wife says, you know, I want a wedding that doesn't have kids. Like at the wedding. Like we've been there, right? Like, or we've seen that occur. Like, I just don't want kids around. I don't want them like running all over the place. So I kind of want an adult only type of wedding. If you hear that while you were planning the wedding, or, you know, you just be casually talking and they say that they want that in their future, run. That's a big red flag. That's a big red flag.
It's a big red flag.
What do you think? Because you brought that up a while ago, and I just remembered it, and I was like,
yeah.
In prepping for this episode, we should put this on the list.
Yeah. So yes, I do think that is a red flag, specifically for someone who wants to be a family man kind of dad, right? Like, I think that is a red flag. The reason I say that is because if having kids at the wedding is so much of an inconvenience, I'm like, you ain't seen inconvenient yet.
Yeah.
You ain't seen inconvenient yet. Yeah. So if you can't take the inconvenience of children at your wedding, then you probably...
It's not for you.
You ain't cut out for this.
It's not for you, Jack. Run. Last but not least, talking about kids, how to raise kids, right?
The differences in raising kids.
So here's an example. You're talking with your significant other, the person who you're dating, and they say that they believe that when y'all have kids, that the 16-year-old can get like a Mercedes-Benz.
Wait, what?
As a car. Right?
Hell no.
Like, we're going to be 2 professionals, high earning professionals. Why can't the 16-year-old get a Mercedes, right?
Yeah, BMX bike.
You okay?
Yeah. That ruled.
Or whatever, really new John that's out there. Like, it doesn't...
You from Philly all of a sudden? We don't even live in South Jersey. What was the John for?
I mix and I go through that.
I've never heard you say that.
I take I-95.
Ever.
I've driven through Philly. I went to Lehigh. There was a lot of people from Philly who went up there.
Okay. Yeah, I've literally never in 20 years heard you say John. Like, next you're going to be like, yeah, that bull.
Wait, what's bull? Where's that from?
Bull. That's Philly.
Oh, is it?
For a guy.
How do you know that?
I watched, what's her name? Brunson. What's her name?
Yo, this John crazy.
Who?
The girl. Oh my God. Anyway,
listen.
the show.
If you can't
What's the
agree,
name of
if
the
you
show?
can't agree on how to raise your kids, or how kids would be raised,
Yes.
specifically like little subtle things, like more specifically, like should a kid get a new car when they turn 16?
Yeah.
That's a red flag, yo.
Yeah.
Red flag, red flag, red flag. Those are the honorable mentions, guys. Those are the honorable mentions of the red flags that you need to worry about. Because listen, ultimately what this is about is making sure that you keep your wealth, right? Because although divorce rates are lower in the doctor field as compared to other healthcare professionals, and definitely lower in comparison to the general population, like having a divorce and marrying the wrong partner, that can set you back big time.
Big time. It has such a huge impact.
Especially if you can get them loans paid off. Oh my God. You got mad loans and you got a big divorce settlement.
Dang, we already got the divorce, right?
Sheesh.
But I think, not being on the same page, whatever that page is.
Okay.
Right? Whatever that page is, with your partner, your spouse, can really impact just your ability to function at your highest capacity.
Yes.
That's
stress. That's stress, yeah.
Right. If you're constantly stressed, if you're constantly fighting, if you feel like you're stifled,
yes.
If you're going in a direction that you really don't want to go, if you are raising your children in an environment that you're like, I don't necessarily agree with this environment that my child is being raised in, or you are, you're all of a sudden you're just doing things that you just really don't want to do. You don't feel comfortable. That can really weigh a lot on you.
That affects how you work. That affects the shifts that you take. That affects how you take
everything.
Care of your patients. That affects a lot.
Do you
want to
even come home?
Do you want to come home? It affects a lot of different things.
It affects your like capacity to live. It affects your health.
And some people maybe they may be listening and wondering like, yo, why are y'all talking about this? But these are the soft skills that I think people don't talk about.
Yep.
You're not going to learn this from medical school, but you may learn these stories from your attendings. Yeah. If you have attendings who are unhappy,
on my third marriage, I'm on my third divorce.
There it is. I've seen people on their fourth.
You know somebody right now who's on their fourth divorce.
So it happens where people these type of things occur, and all we're just saying is that sometimes if you look back, you can see that there's they're red flags. They're crumbs that say this probably was doomed from the get-go.
Yeah.
You just got to be careful about those things. And the things that are very blatant, like you just definitely got to have your you got to be really paying attention to these things. And a lot of these things come up in just simple conversation. Mm-hmm. And when you end up talking to a friend about it, sometimes they may say, yo, you don't think that's a problem?
Yes.
Right? When you're telling a friend, like, you don't think that's a problem? Right, like that's happened.
Oh my God, I've had that conversation.
Your girl is planning a wedding and she don't want kids. How?
I recently had not that specific conversation, but I did have the conversation with a friend recently about two of the relationships that she had over the last couple of years, and it's tough to identify red flags for your friends when you see it, because it's a red flag for me. I don't know if it's a red flag for you, but I told her, I was like, do you remember when we had this conversation about the conversation that you were having with this gentleman? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, remember how I said to you that I was asking if you were sure that this was something that was sustainable?
Are you sure? Are you sure?
And you said yes. Sure? And that was the thing that ended up basically pulling them apart.
So you had your Molly, you in danger?
Molly, you in danger, girl.
But you didn't want to say it just like outright.
No, because I didn't know, because she was saying that it was something that was sustainable for her, even though I thought it was a red flag, and I was bringing her attention to it. But she normalized it and was like, no, like, I think that that's completely normal. But then that specific situation is the thing that actually caused them to have strife. And I was like, yeah, because this is abnormal. This is not normal. Yeah. But Abbott Elementary, that's the school. Okay. I mean, that's the show.
I heard that show was great, but
it is, yeah.
The bandwidth of watch all these different shows.
Is what's the name? It's set in Philadelphia, and they say Bull in Philadelphia, yeah.
All right, y'all. Let us know what you think. Write us in the send us a text. Let us know what you think about this episode, as well as
Blast
email us. Email us at team@drneedarko.com.
Send us your angriest texts.
Or you can shoot us, not shoot us. You can DM us.
You can slip and slide into our DMs.
Send us a message through Instagram at Docs Outside the Box. Are we Docs Outside the Box podcast or just Docs Outside the Box?
Just Docs Outside the Box.
At Docs Outside the Box, y'all. We're going to catch you guys on another episode, guys. This was a fun one. Remember, this was a little bit of some gaslighting, a little bit of some trigger warning. But listen, a lot of this stuff was actually truthful to you. We'll catch you guys on the next one, guys. Peace. Every time I say is what I'm saying is issue is the question is